Is everybody else on here got the permission to record?
Yeah.
So I know there's something joined here late. Just a reminder, please, if you are going to ask a question, just please make sure your video, your camera, your video's on so that Lovie can see who he's talking to. Appreciate that. Otherwise, try to respect everybody with the mute. You guys have all done this enough now. Lauren Tate's not on here, so I don't have to specifically call him out for muting or not muting.
I'll play a Lauren today.
All right. So, so every day at the end of practice, the plan is to have this link available. Most times, Lovie will go first, followed by players. And we got the two captains today. We'll do two captains tomorrow. We're thinking Rod Smith and Brandon Peters on Saturday. We'll take Sunday off. Monday will be the team's day off. And then we're going to try to work on a schedule where we're doing maybe by position. So position coach and Lovie, a position coach, and a few players from that position, 2 or 3 players, depending on how much time these are taking each day, and go through the different positions. So if there are special requests, reach out to Brett so he can get those. We can try to handle those separately, just knowing that it's not quite as convenient. So when we're right with them. So practices every day look like they're going to be starting at 10 o'clock. So today they were done. They came off the field a little afternoon, but we're going to basically say 12:30 to the start of these. It may be a little bit early than that, 12:20, 12:25. And then, I don't know, any questions? Just remind, we should have our credential. There's Lauren Tate. Now I can talk about Lauren. Just a reminder that here soon, probably today or tomorrow, we should have our credential website up and running so you can sign up credentials. We are going to be very limited this year. I can just tell you there's probably people that have gotten credentials in the past that won't be credentialed this season. So our press box is going to be limited in space and number of people. So just be aware of that. We are going to provide at the end of games, there'll be Zoom post-game interviews, and so those links will be available whether you're here or at home to cover. We're going to provide pool photography, pool video that are free and open to everybody. So we're trying to make it as convenient as possible for the folks. So, all right, I see Scott Beatty. I just gave you permission to record. Anybody else that needs permission to record that I haven't done that with yet? Oh, Shannon's back. All right, got a connection. I don't know if he's on the. There he is.
On also.
All right, Coach, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready to go.
All right, I've asked everybody to hit their video when they're ready to ask you a question. I'll probably call on the questionnaire before they ask you, and then if you have like an opening statement, a little bit about day one, and then we'll open up for questions.
All right. Thanks, Kent. First off, man, it's kind of good to be back. I know we're all kind of dealing with some of the same things that we've been dealing with, since March, really. Our life has changed since then. And the football part of it, of course, we didn't have any spring practices. So, for about a month, we've had some informal workouts going on, more lifting, running. Last couple weeks or so, we've added walkthroughs to the mix. And today, of course, was our first official practice. We're excited to have an opportunity to play the #1 team in the country, with opening game of the season. But until then, there's a lot of work to do. That's what we're going through. As I said, a lot of things have changed. As I talk to our players, we're saying that it's as safe we feel like Champaign is about as safe as a place as you could be right now, being an athlete, a football player here, really an athlete at the University of Illinois. Our protocol, our COVID protocol is about as good as you get. Randy Ballard, Jeremy Bush, and the rest of our medical staff and our doctors have done a super job. Just kind of talking a little bit about what we're doing here. Our players will be tested daily. Not many can say that. So we'll, as far as knowing what's going on with each one of our athletes, we'll have about as good a, chance to know that before we go on the football field, as I said, as anyone. No system is foolproof. It's still about compliance a little bit. And, for us and our players, if you were at practice today, you would see all of us in masks, at least one form of mask, and with our players, shields on their helmets. We're practicing social distancing as much as you possibly can. These first 2 days are non-padded practices, so it's a little bit different. We don't have all of the answers right now, but each day we'll learn a bit more to just create a better environment to learn. We want to play football this year. Again, we realize it's bigger than just football, what we're dealing with. So day one was a success as far as we're concerned. And I'll take your question.
Robert, you're up.
So, Coach, first time to talk about some of the personnel issues, I guess. Roster came out today. Trayshawn Smith was not on that roster. Also, maybe other guys like Ricky Smalling, maybe talk about, Rayvon Bonner has chosen to sit out, roster moves in this kind of crazy time.
Okay. Which each new year, your roster is gonna change quite a bit. And we, number one, we'll be trying to improve our roster right up until they tell us, you can't anymore. So it's gonna be a fluid roster for quite a bit of time, most of the year. Some of the guys that you mentioned a little bit, Trayshawn Smith, we believe in the graduate transfer market. So we'll continue to recruit a lot of those guys. Sometimes guys are committed and they end up going in a little different direction. As you're dealing with the graduate transfer, he's not really yours, and the marriage doesn't really happen until you get on campus and all of that. So we were recruiting him. He chose to go elsewhere. So Trayshawn Smith will not be joining our football team. You mentioned Ricky Smalling. There's some other, not off the field, but just some things non-related to football on why Ricky won't be with us anymore. I'm trying to think of the other players. You mentioned Rayvon Bonner. At the University of Illinois, and I think most schools are doing this, all players have an option to opt out if they have concerns about COVID-19 and just them playing football. Rayvon chose that route, which we support. So those are three other players if there's a guy, today was, again, our first day. We have a few players that will be joining us, though, that aren't here yet. And I can't really talk about any players being on our team until they're actually here. But we'll have a few more, about 3 other players that will be joining us a little bit later. I don't know if I missed anyone else that you asked about.
Jake Cerny was the only other one. I know he was.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Jake Cerny too. I know, when it initially came out, someone told me that we had 3 players that opted out. No, we've had 1 player that's opted out, and that's Rayvon Bonner. Jake Cerny, like a lot of us, met his partner for life and got married. He was already a graduate here at the University of Illinois and chose to move on with his life. That's what he was related to.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Hey, Shannon, you're up.
I think that works. Hi, Lovie. How are you?
Great, Shannon, how about you?
I'm all right. You mentioned doing daily testing, and one of the reasons the Big Ten said they were going to the conference only schedule was to have that uniformity that comfort level when teams play each other. Would you like to see the Big Ten as a whole do daily testing?
Well,
You
I
think it should?
I think our testing for the Big Ten overall, as you count all the schools, will be as good as it is in any conference. I think some of us at our university is able to do even a little bit more. I think, yes, Shannon, there should be minimum tests that you should have. Every university should have, and I think I know the Big Ten has that. We're just kind of blessed here at the University of Illinois where we could do a little bit more, but the more the better. I absolutely believe in testing. I think that it should be a given that we all wear a mask, football players, everyone in general, to try to, offset this disease as much as we can.
And there was 1,000 Big Ten athletes wrote this letter. I'm sure you've read it and looked it over. Do you agree with those demands? Would you be, it seems like some of them a lot are being met at Illinois, but how have you talked about that with players on your team, and do you agree with those things or would move to support those requests?
Well, I talk, Shannon, to our football players here, and I listen to them, not just through a letter, but daily input from what our players feel comfortable with. So I have talked to our players, and each one of our players that has chosen to be here today and just be a part of our football team is pretty happy with what's going on right now with what we're doing. Can we make things better for the players? Absolutely, and I hope that we get to that point. But for us right now, it was about safety for the players to go back and play the game of football, which we're doing, and just having the COVID protocols in place for us right now. And that's what we're doing.
Thanks, that's good for me now. Thank you.
Thank you. We haven't been together in about 5 months, and so I'm going to have to carry this conversation the entire time. Nobody else has any other questions. Football season starting up.
Lovie, this is Matt Stevens with Illini Now Sports Illustrated. I wanted to ask you about depth. First day of camp, do you have any depth concerns positional wise? And if you do, is linebacker one of them?
Well, Matt, to answer your question, absolutely. First day of, training camp, every year there are concerns that you have. Just talking about linebacker in general. Well, Jake Hansen would be our Mike linebacker this year. Jake's one of the best linebackers in football. Milo Eifler would play the wheel linebacker position. Kaylon Tolson will be our Sam linebacker. All three of those guys have played ball, and they're good football players. Backing them up, we have a couple of different options. Tariq Barnes played for us a little bit last year. Shimon Cooper has, in workouts, we're really excited about his second year in our program. Should help an awful lot. Delano Ware would be another. So I'm excited about some of the young depth. The players I mentioned haven't played a lot, but they're all guys that have a lot of promise, and we feel good about at least our two deep right now at the linebacker position.
And I noticed on the roster, Lovie, that there are, I think I counted 39 guys that had player weight differences from last year to this year. Obviously that's going to happen, but I wanted you to comment on what you thought of the progress in the summer and in the spring that they were able to do with Coach Hernandez, and maybe getting their bodies a little bit differently for what you want them to do in 2020.
Another good question, Matt. First, just talking about weight in general. Weight is the most overrated thing that I think there is. Strength is not. But a lot of our players we have some of our players that have made unbelievable gains. I was just walking in with 6 feet apart, of course, with Seth Coleman coming in. He's at least 25 pounds heavier in a year of good weight. So we have quite a few of our guys that have made unbelievable gains in the weight room, but also added a little bit of muscle and size too, which we needed to do. We recruit. We'd rather have a small athlete and put good weight on them the right way, and Coach Lou has done an excellent job with that. some of our other new players, just new guys in our program. I mentioned kind of grad transfers a little bit earlier, but I'm excited about Daniel Bebe. We've had success with that family, so we're excited about adding another guy to the mix. Blake Girasati. These are good football players that kind of chose to just add a little depth. Offensive line wise, we have one of the best offensive lines back in the country. But we lost Richie Pettibone last year, so Burtis Brown, Jordan Slaughter, guys competing at that next position. Really excited about what our offensive line will be able to do this year. But back to the earlier question about depth, we've lost a lot on the defensive line. So we really need to get to camp to develop some of those guys too.
Hey, Scott Beatty.
Hey, Lovie, first of all, maybe the least important question, but nice glasses. Where'd you get them?
A lot of things change. They told me the older you get, the more, I think there's a screen in front of me, right? I can't really tell without it, but anyway, I use readers now quite often. That's changed since I talked with y'all last time.
Well, they look good. I'm curious about the tone of practice and camp, given everything that's surrounding us, and both with Black Lives Matter and also the pandemic. Do you sense a different tone or a vibe? Is the excitement for football muted at all, even though it's there, just because it seems like there's bigger priorities circling around us?
Well, there has been a lot that's happened socially, of course, with our country, racial equality. Just so much has happened. Of course, we were talking about COVID also, but the excitement for football, though, is still there. Nothing changes. I think this is my 41st year maybe of training camp. That's a long time. I'm going to throw that out there. But the excitement is still there, of course, for me and for our team. Our practices are a little bit different right now. The first couple of days are non-padded practices. I think I said that earlier, but we're kind of split apart right now. There's no offense, defense, and things like that. We've adjusted how we practice, at least in the interim. But yes, the excitement is there, knowing who our first opponent is. And then also just building on last year. We made progress with our program last year. And this is the best football team. Since I've been here, this is our best football team we're going to put on the field this year. 2 years ago, we're talking about those 15 freshmen that started. They're seniors now. And going back to the early question, I think maybe from Shannon, I listened to them. They have a voice in what we do always. So it's not like we have to have a lot of special meetings to attack and address things that are happening right now, maybe to the rest of the world. It's kind of what we do always, and I like where we are.
And then you mentioned there, my other question was, is the nature of practice changing because of COVID? Normally you might talk about limiting contact just to prevent injuries in training camp, but are you limiting contact or practicing in a different way because of COVID?
Well, we will be. As I said, the first couple of days, just if you were here today, you would see that we were on two, offense, defense, we're on two separate fields. We'll eventually get back together. But that's what we're doing in general. Things that have changed, we have afternoon meetings today. There will be virtual meetings. We're in the interim, we're not meeting. We'll have all virtual meetings. Watching video, all of that, just trying to keep the contact to a minimum as much as anything. Eventually, though, we're going to have to practice football and get a little bit up closer, with closer contact. And that'll be just a part of it. All the safeguards we have in place with our players, we think will offset a lot of things, but it still comes down to compliance with our guys of when they leave the building. Basketball has a heck of a situation being in a bubble. college football, I think the NFL, none of us have that. We just have to rely on all of us being disciplined when we leave the building as much as anything. And we trust the guys to do that.
Hey, Jeremy, you're up. Bob Osmussen on deck.
Lovie, good to see you. Hope you're well. You mentioned some of the transfer additions that you've made. I imagine, you build through high school kind of like the draft in the NFL, and then the transfers have kind of become the market, kind of like free agency. Just how has the portal changed the way you kind of go about roster building, or college football has kind of gone about roster building?
Well, Jeremy, I think where I look at exactly what you said. Your foundation has to be with high school athletes. That won't change for us. But I think you can also offset your roster after you go through a season. You have a chance to look at where you are after a season. And now a good option that I see is the graduate transfer market, because of what you're getting. I make the statement that sometimes divorce is a good thing. That's reality. It is. And I think the second time around, things can really work out well. And that's what we found. The graduate transfers that we brought into our program, I would want to marry my daughter. These type of good men have proven that they know the meaning of student athlete. They've gotten their degree, and they just need a second chance. I believe in second chances. Simple as that. So we will continue to use the graduate transfer market as an addition to what we're going to do with the high school athletes.
You have a few guys who might have to sit out that are on the roster now: Kamari Thompson, Brian Hightower, Brevin Jones. I know waivers can be inconsistent in the past, but are you hopeful, or are you trying to get waivers for any of those guys?
Well, I say the graduate transfer market. We will take some transfers also, like last year. Luke Ford, Milo Eifler, we took Derek Smith. These guys are ready to go this year, but we will look at that a little bit. But when we take a transfer, we're saying, hey, we're okay if he can't play right away. But what we'll do is we will request a waiver for the guys to be immediately eligible for all of these athletes. And I think there's good reason for it. And as I look at what's happening in the rest of college football, there are a lot of guys that have transferred, and it seems like most of them have been granted waivers right now in this unsettling time. And guys want to have a better situation, whether it's family issues or whatever. That's what some of our players, our transfers have gone through. So I'm hoping that some of them will be eligible and be granted the waiver to play immediately also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Bob, you're up. Alec on deck. Gavin in the hole.
Hey, Coach, great to see you. You mentioned the atmosphere today. You did have fans there. I know the last couple of years you've had crowds and fans at the rec fields. How was that different for you today? Did you miss the fans? Miss the interaction with the people? Your fan base.
Bob, we absolutely missed that. Yes. And, players, of course, you like playing in front of as many fans as possible. But a lot has changed, Bob, since I saw your face last, a lot has changed. And it's a different world, and we need to get used to it. Stadium's not going to be filled to capacity this year. So for us, it's just another step along the way of this new normal for us, and we will adjust. Even though a lot of training camp we've seen fans there, some days we didn't, and we've had good practices that way too. So this is our new world we're living in, and we'll adjust to it and just have to make the best of it.
I got one more, Coach. You've had a day to kind of absorb the schedule. What's your thoughts on it when you look at it now? Obviously, a pretty good team coming here early September. The rest is just kind of your thoughts. I know you talked about some, but after looking at it for a day, what do you think?
Well, Bob, normally, it's always about the, coaching 101, that first game. Don't look to the second game. All right. And really being honest with you, how I've always looked at it is that first quarter, the non-conference games, is different than when you start Big Ten play. So first off, to get the guys really excited, when you start Big Ten play, and then we get a chance to play the number one team in the country. And we know a lot of the guys by name. That's a great opportunity for a program like ours that's trying to get there. So loved it. Yeah, I've had a chance to digest the schedule a little bit. So the opening game, have Ohio State come here. We've knocked off some big people here in Memorial Stadium. So we're looking for another opportunity. I guess, as I said, a great team. And also going on the road, of seeing the first road opponent. We had a heck of a game against Nebraska last year. Scott Frost does a great job, just like Ryan Day does with Ohio State. So looking forward to both of those games and the rest of the Big Ten schedule.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, Alec. Alec, you're up. Alec, you're up. Gavin, you're on deck.
Hey, Coach. Glad you're doing well. I know you're really proud of Jake Hansen and the leadership that he had last season at the Will. How excited are you to get him at maybe not more of a more traditional leadership spot at the mic, but just heading into this season? How excited are you to have him there?
Very excited. First of all, Jake's just an excellent football player. He gets it. You can make adjustments with him. It's a natural transition for him to be the Mike linebacker for us this year. Again, he knows the defense. He, coach talk again. He is like a coach on the football field. So, again, once you get to your last year, we've gone through an awful lot. My first year here, I saw Jake. We have about 5 or 6 players that, went with – we played Ohio State last time up there and went through that massacre a little bit. We're here. Jake was injured on the sideline. I said, Jake, we'll have another chance someday. So really excited about the leadership that he will provide. And on a personal note, just love the guy. And as simple as that. Can't hide my feelings. I just what he stands for, what you get from him daily. I know what he's doing on and off the field. Just been a blessing to have a chance to coach a guy like that.
You mentioned the two deep a little bit with guys like Shimon Cooper, Tariq Barnes. What are you looking for from those younger guys in these couple of weeks with training camp?
And really what we've been getting all along, there's a natural progression that you have to go through. You can't skip a step. As a young player, that's what they went through last year. But what I've seen, as we talk about weight, Shimon Cooper is 20 pounds heavier in a year. He's as intelligent and smart a football player as there is around. Excited about the step that he and Tariq played a little bit more last year. But what we're trying to see from really our team is just that. From the time we start doing walkthroughs, we've seen so much improvement, and we'll need to do that and more, of course, to be ready for Ohio State.
And the last question I had, Milo obviously had a lot of really big plays last year for you guys, big highlight reel plays. Do you think he's prone for a big breakout season potentially for you?
Well, he has to be, and he will. It takes a while to really, get the system down. And Milo, he had some flash plays last year, but this year what we're hoping to see is a more consistent linebacker that's capable of making those big play after play. He's got everything you look for. He can rush the pass. He can play great in zone coverage, man coverage. His last year, it's like with Jake Hansen, we're expecting big things.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
Hey, Gavin and Mariah, try to keep it to one question, and then we'll finish up with Brett. Thanks.
All right. If I only got one, Lovie, it's good to see you. I just wanted to know, you guys have dealt with, a bunch of positives, a positive COVID test throughout the summer, and it seems like, most of those came right when players got here. I'm wondering what you kind of seen. Have you seen guys' attitudes change since that, or their actions and levels of, decisions they've made, whether it's just taking it more seriously or just a shift in focus since those?
Well, just talking about just the COVID test in general, when I say this is the safest place for the players to be, I think that kind of proved it a little bit. As you mentioned, we've had some guys come in. We had more that came in and tested positive. They were bringing it from somewhere else. Champaign, as most of us know, you can't hardly be in a better place. As far as them changing their thinking, once we got them here, we started putting our protocol in place. And I think that takes care of an awful lot. But there is no perfect world, though. And that's what we have to be ready for. Again, we have a great COVID protocol in place, but there are some issues that we deal with. You know, contact tracing, you know, just some of the things that still, though, it's about what guys do when they leave here. And for us, in a way, we are in a bubble right now, too. Summer school is going on right now. You know, we're getting ready to have a lot of students come to campus. There's a whole different situation that we'll be dealing with then, but we'll have things in place to make the best of that also.
Thanks.
All right, Mariah, and then Brett.
Hi, Lovie. As somebody who is at higher risk, I'm wondering if you personally have any COVID safety protocols that differ from your players.
Okay, you know, I was really doing good. So why am I more at risk? You're saying, Mariah, you're saying I'm an old guy. Is that what you're saying? That I have to be concerned? You know, Bob, I take offense to that question. I've been answered to a lot of people. Hey, coach, you're right. You know, you're over 60. You know, I'll just say you haven't seen me. I'm in the best shape I've been in a long time. I'm gonna throw that out there. To get to your question, I'm just like everybody else, Mariah. I have a mask on wherever I go. You see me ride my bike into work. I even have it on then. I'm washing my hands. I'm trying to keep social distance. I'm doing all of those things. And to me, that's all I can do. Plus everybody that's not even involved with football, that's what we're doing. And I feel safe, and I kind of trust our process and everything that's going on.
As long as you feel safe, Lovie, we're worried about you, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and Brett has the last question of the day for Coach.
Lovie, it seems like a lot of people have been riding a roller coaster here. Are we going to have sports? Are we not? Are we going to have a lot of the things we've been used to? I know you're a pretty even-keeled guy, but how have you kind of wavered in these last 5 months of the unknowns? And have you had the thought that you might not play this year?
Well, you know, Brad, how I operate is that, you know, okay, start off my glass half full each day. And it's always about what we can control. We can control, first off, our whole COVID protocol that we have on keeping our players safe, our plan. That's what I rely on, is just that. I understand what can happen down the way. But to me, it's just about focusing in on what we're doing right now. And I feel good about all of that. I hope. At the same time, I don't have my head in the sand. I realize that, first off, there's no given that college football for sure will be played. But right now, what they've told us is that we could start practicing, and that's what we're doing. And until somebody tells us different, that's what we're going to do. We have a schedule now. We're doing everything to lead up to that game, and that's enough for me to get up each morning and attack that day. And our football team is taking that same approach, one day at a time. Today, you could put a plus by the University of Illinois. We had a good start.
All right. Well, Coach, thank you for your time today. Appreciate day one update. And we're going to move on to a couple of players here. We got a couple of captains. So thank you.
See y'all tomorrow.